So Amazon Studios did something the other day that kind of threw some of us and made us think, like, what's going on? They announced a casting in a star role for a Voltron live-action film. And I was not familiar with this actor. He seems very young. But, that happens. That's fine. Whatever. But what is the film then? Years ago, I thought we were at a place in about 2008, 2009 for a live-action Voltron. Voltron was one of those cartoons that I saw as a child that had kind of ended its hype, but was just kind of lingering there still in the early mornings. And I was sitting there watching Star Trek, the 2008 J.J. Abrams reboot, and I'm like, at this time we were also in the the height. We had the first Transformers movie. We were preparing for the second Transformers film, and I was like, this is the time of doing a Voltron movie. I'm like, you're pairing Star Trek with Transformers. The Voltron universe is rich with planets and space explorers and space adventure, but then you get that big mech, machines of Transformers with the lions, and I'm like, there's a lot of cool lore in this universe, and I'm like, this is the time.
In 10 miles, take the exit onto I-75 North and State Route 4 North toward Toledo.
And we did not get that then. Okay, and then we got, fast forward about 10 years, we get the MMPR Power Rangers live action film, which I've talked about before. I think is very good, but they messed up by waiting too long to have them morph. Then as soon as they morph, boom, in their Zords, and that's the film. We didn't really get that great midpoint action sequence that we needed. We tried to backload everything and really didn't get a chance to see the Rangers as the Rangers. And I think maybe that hindered something in the development, because I feel like this film was talked about, then just kind of disappeared. And now here we are with this. Now, jumping back just a little bit, what was it? Late, mid-teens, 2000 teens, we got the Netflix Voltron series, which was amazing. I liked that show a lot, and I'm like, this is how you do Voltron for a modern audience. And I'm pretty sure I never finished the last season, and I can't tell you why. But I think you have a great foundation and elements that were in that series to build a movie. A movie is paced different than a series, and most of the time I prefer a movie over a series, unless it's more of a character study. And I've pitched series before, because I feel like there's characters that deserve a lot, and you're not always guaranteed a trilogy of films to develop them, and films need like I said, they're paced different, and you need bigger arcs and things. And I feel like in a series you can kind of do those character studies and build that. But something like Voltron, much like how we recently had a Halo series that only got 2 seasons, I feel like Halo should have been a film. And I won't talk on that as much right now, but we didn't need a Halo series, we needed a Halo film, because you needed that faster, bigger action. I feel like Voltron falls in the same thing. I don't want a series, I want a quicker adventure movie. And adventure is a key word. I always remember as a child, why their colors didn't always match the lion in which they piloted. And then, we kind of learned, as I went back, because as a kid, you just saw whatever was aired when it was aired. You didn't always have a chance to go back and start things from the beginning. So having Sven as the leader and Keith as the number 2 is a great way of starting these character arcs. And you can make Lance and Keith kind of contemporaries, where they're both battling to be number 2. They both want to be the leader in their own way. They're not frenemies, but they're kind of are. They're rivals, but they're still working together. Sven as the leader, slightly older, but not too much, is kind of his character. And bring in the elements they brought from the TV series, where he is in a homosexual relationship and what that does to him, and as far as being in a committed relationship compared to the others that don't really have relationships. Hunk is your, big, brash, comic relief type person. Lance is like kind of your, I want to be your man's man, but I'm kind of awkward at the same time, and has his goofy moments. Pidge, I thought, was great in the animated show, and I would do this same element with her, because the story is you had, and I can't remember what the sister's name was assigned to, but basically the sister is posing as her brother, who was Pidge, because the real brother has gone missing, and she is using her brother's credentials and everything to get involved in this mission. So you have that element of someone trying to be someone else and hiding who they are, but it also gets another girl on the team so that you don't just have the princess. Now, you do have your midpoint in the film where Sven is killed battling Prince Lothar. Okay? And I think having the Prince Lothar and Zarkon, all them being this entity that arrives that the planets are trying to renegotiate with, and you have this faux sense that Prince Lothar is actually good and not his father, and his father is presumed dead, but then Prince Lothar is actually worse than his father, and Zarkon returns and he wasn't really dead, and then in like an arc you have Lothar kill his father and assume the role as over his empire, is kind of his arc in the story, where Lothar kind of comes more benevolent as I'm trying to make up for my father's mistakes, and he comes, to the princess whose father was basically the leader of the opposition against Zarkon. There's your seeds there. You have a little bit of this love triangle because, of course, Keith is in love with the princess, and she has a returned affection for him, but then you have, like, Lance and Hunk both kind of are smitten with the princess. I would put Lance, I would let Hunk just be like a friend. He has a love for the princess, but it's not a romantic. He's not trying to be her boyfriend as everyone else is trying to be. So those are kind of like you're filling out your character arcs, and then in that midpoint where Sven is killed, that is, in the sense, Keith and Lance battle for power, with Keith winning because the Black Lion chooses him. I would not have Lance take over the Red Lion. I always felt that was kind of awkward because the lions really don't show hierarchy other than the Black Lion. And then you have the princess who has her own costume, who takes the key, and she begins the process of piloting the Red Lion because she's always felt like it was part of her destiny, and part of her arc is stepping into her own and being the leader of her people and of the galaxy and being a pilot. And there was always something mystical, magical about the lions, whereas they almost are sentient, where they bond with their pilot. And having the princess bond with the Red Lion, plus red and pink are a little bit more correlating colors. And if we wanted to, I think you could segue to where Keith dons the black outfit and the princess dons the red.
Take the exit onto I-75 North and State Route 4 North toward Toledo.
Not having to put a girl in pink, but I think there should be a time where you see her in the pink outfit because she created it herself, because she's trying to bond with a lion or take over or be part of the pilots during that initial search when the space explorers arrive and begin kind of this quest to find the lions, because each lion kind of is hiding in their own location. We see, like, from the old cartoon and everything, how when they go to the lions, we have one in the earth, and each lion almost is elemental, where the black lion, of course, is right there on top of the castle. But red is in fire, blue is in water, yellow is, why am I drawing a blank? Stone, and then, like, green is like forest. Yeah, that's what it was. Represent kind of these earthly beings. One thing that was always interesting about is there is almost a horror element, because you have Hagar, the witch, and this sorceress, and there's enough in there that kind of plays into the mindset similar to, like, Star Wars, and that's another element to bring in with, everybody loves Star Wars, with Zarkon and Lothor and their whole empire being much like the Empire. And, you could open the film with a big action piece where we see Voltron in his last battle, where we presume that Zarkon is killed and that empire is dissolved, and we enter the time of peace in the galaxy, and Voltron retires. And then we have that happen, and then we kind of cut to later on where we have this new Robeast, and this is a new element that emerges. This, they did not use Robeast in the first battle, so these monsters, these big battle monsters, start attacking planets, and it's almost like these kaiju-esque monsters. And which, another thing is popular. Pacific Rim was an excellent film that's completely underrated, but we all like watching kaijus battle robots, right? We have Godzilla and Kong right now. It's popular as well. So these big kaiju monsters are attacking these planets. And
in 2 miles, take exit 50.
And then, the planets are fighting them off, and they need their champion. So you have the United Planet Council sending out the space explorers that have been chosen from the cadet university to potentially be the pilots to go to planet Eris and find the princess to bring back Voltron. And I love the cartoon for the old narration of just summing up what was needed. This is the story of the super team of space explorers sent by the Alliance to bring back Voltron, Defender of the Universe. And that's kind of how, your story starts. And I think all the elements are there for this massive film that feels unique, but feels familiar at the same time. And it kind of bums me out that it's an Amazon Studios film, because this is a movie that asked to be grand, to be seen on a big screen. Unless Amazon releases it in theaters, like we've seen with certain studios, like Netflix has done limited releases on things. And I think Voltron could really spark something new, as long as you don't play into too much nostalgia where you feel like you have to have known the old Voltron, and it feels like it's something old. But if you play it something new, I think it could really work, because you have so many elements in it.
Use the right lane to take exit 57.
Of different stories kind of put in a blender, but it doesn't feel that's what you're doing. It's like a comfort, but yet it's unique. And I remember riding my bike pretending I was one of the explorers. And, my bicycle was me and my lion. So that is my pitch for Voltron, Defender of the Universe. A film that I've thought off and on about. And then when I saw that post, I was like, what? Netflix is for real? I just feel like this could be something great. And I really hope it is.